guys? Welcome back to Educate and Elevate with Pablo and Armando. We are super excited to have you guys back for a very special episode with a very special person to us here at the Financial Architects. But well beyond that, you know, she's an amazing mother, business partner. I want to title her almost like a philanthropist as well, with the amazing movement that we're going to be talking about today, the Semilla movement. Nayeli Alvarado, welcome to the show.
Yes.
Wow,
Welcome.
Thank you. I
Yes.
feel the love.
Yes.
All the roses.
All the roses, right?
Yes. And our first female.
Oh,
Yes.
Am
On
I?
the podcast.
First
Oh,
female on the
yeah.
podcast.
Oh, that just makes it even better.
Speaking about that, I don't know if you guys knew that, but March is National Women's Month
Is it?
or something
Is
like
it,
that.
Is it a Mother's Day?
No, that's in May,
Oh,
bro.
I'm so sorry.
No.
Hijo.
I'm on. Perdóname.
Wow.
But hey, that makes it perfect then. That
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, it popped up on my calendar. You know, Google has all this stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And shout out to all the women out there.
Yes.
Especially the entrepreneurs, the ones that are working double shifts. And, you know, we see everything you're doing, and we're really inspired. Pablo talks nonstop about you.
You guys, I'm super honored to be here. It's such a gift to have been invited, and I love what your mission, and I love what you guys are doing. So definitely honored to be here. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. I know there's definitely a lot of things, especially for us in the beginning of the year. You with the new launch, right? Which we want to talk about Semilla, the Semilla movement.
Yes.
I think that was the number one thing. It's a nonprofit, but talk a little bit about Semilla and the birth of this amazing foundation that you're starting, this movement.
Well, my baby, I thank you so much for you wanting to actually bring this to awareness and to share with others. And I was really happy that you were there at the launch. And Semilla has actually been up and running for a little bit over a year. But Semilla grew, and I'm going to start from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You guys are okay with that?
No, please.
The very beginning is that I was introduced to a dear friend of mine, brother, Jeremiah Forrest. Jeremiah Forrest is the founder of Prosperity Homes. And I was introduced to him back in 2018. And so they were, you know, sharing the mission of Prosperity Homes. And so when I went to the very first build with them, I completely, and you know, I in my heart, even when I was a young girl, like growing up in a Christian home, I had a heart, and I thought like, oh, one day I want to be a missionary and go to Colombia. But, you know, those are things that just come up, and then you just forget about them. So, you know, even though you have in your heart, and you know that service and serving others is showing love to others, you never necessarily, for me, I never necessarily acted on it and did things like this or got involved in things like this. So the very first trip to going to Prosperity Homes completely shattered my heart. It just was, I was exposed to something that I actually never thought was so close to us, and that people were hurting and living in those types of states. So you know, we saw the first home that we went to go build, or the first one that I was part of. It was a home that had burnt down. So they had a little tent, and that little tent had burned down. So immediately Prosperity Homes did whatever they could to build that home for that family. And it was beautiful to just see how they, from Friday morning, we used to go Fridays to Sundays. From Friday morning to Sunday afternoon, we were living the family with a roof over their head, a home where it had, you know, a little living area and 2 bedrooms with mattresses, with beds. We now leave a lot more for them, but I mean, we completely changed that family's life.
Wow.
And so I share this story, and the reason I say that my heart shattered is because I share the story that when I came home that day, or that Sunday night, I opened my shower to get in the shower, and I completely broke down. It was something that I could not explain, because I just came from a place where they have no water, they have no electricity, they have no gas. We were up on a hill, and for me, and also you can see, if you're familiar with Ensenada, you can see the ocean. So I was sitting up on the hill and thinking like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, wow, prime real estate, right? Like, look at the hill and you see the water. And then they come to me and they approach me and they're like, no, this is actually not prime real estate. Here in Ensenada, the higher you up on the hill, the cheaper the property is.
Wait, really?
Yeah. And so then I said, wait, what? And I said, yeah, because think about it. They have no cars. So they have to walk that hilltop. If they want to go buy a gallon of water, they have to carry that up the hill whatever they want to buy in the store, they have to carry that up the hill. They want to take their kids somewhere, they have to walk down that hill, whether they have a stroller or a baby or 3 babies. So and so even to go pick up trash for them, or to maybe even go sell water to them, sometimes the cars don't want to go up there because they're high up on the hill.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's cheaper to live over there. You're not getting, the services that you should be getting, and it's a struggle to live up there.
So let's because we're talking about Prosperity Homes, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that Semilla was inspired by 100%. A little bit by of what you saw with Prosperity Homes. Talk about Prosperity Homes, because we, Armando and I, we've been interested in doing something like that, but for somebody that's maybe listening to this, they're like, well, what is that?
Yeah. So
talk about that.
Yeah. So Prosperity Homes will do events or takes donations so that we can be able to build a home for a family. And, like I explained, we leave them with a roof over their head. The inspiration for Semilla 1,000% came from that interaction with those families. A lot of these kids with Prosperity Homes are able to go to school, but shortly after, you realize that there's a lot of kids that sometimes are pulled out of school, even with these families, because most of their parents are working whatever jobs they can find, but also they're working in the fields. And so the kids can work in the fields as early as 8 years old or 9 years old. So if the family doesn't have enough income to pay whatever they need to pay that month, or even put food in the table, the kid is going to be pulled out of school and is going to go work in the fields. So there isn't really education, available to them. And if there is, it's like on and off whenever the parents can't take them and whenever they can. Because one of the things that I also learned, and this is, again, another birth of Semilla, is education is not free in Mexico. In Ensenada, you have to pay to go to school.
It's elementary, middle school,
elementary, middle school, everything.
Oh, it's a public school system.
And that's a public school system, but you still have to pay.
Okay.
So it's not a private school where you have, elevated education and things like that. No, it's a public school. It's a public school system, but you still have to pay to be able to attend school. You have to pay for every single thing that you have to use at school, books, pencils, everything. Nothing is given to you. You have to pay for uniforms, because even though it's a public school, they don't want you to show up with torn up clothing probably. Right. So you have to pay for uniforms. So there's a cost, and if the family cannot, pay for that, the kids are not going to school. And more importantly, if the family cannot put food on the table that month, the kids are being pulled out of school and then going to work at the fields. There are children that are not going to school as well if they're 10 or 11, because they stay home to watch the siblings, because mom and dad have to go to work in the fields. So this is all the things that, we see with, through Prosperity, through Semilla. And so the birth of Semilla came from saying, okay, here we are building a home for them, which is absolutely beautiful, and we need to continue
from Prosperity
doing that.
Homes, right?
Prosperity Homes.
The main mission was to build
a home,
infrastructure,
and we continue to build homes, and that's
for
still our
Prosperity
mission.
Homes. Okay,
absolutely.
Nice. Okay.
But Semilla came from saying, well, here we are, we're living the children. I'm saying bye to the kids, but the daughter is 11 years old. Right. Am I going to be back in 5 years to build now a home for her and her her husband, because now she got pregnant and there's no life? And this is the cycle. How do we break the cycle? And so, you guys, we're all in financial services. We understand the education is the key for everything. And so how do we make accessible to this 11-year-old, this 8-year-old, this 10-year-old, this 12-year-old schooling? How do we make that accessible so that they can see and they can believe that there is more to life than continue to live the cycle of poverty? And so that's really where Semilla was born. It's like, how do we get involved? How do we break the cycle? Education. That's the key. Because if the child can believe, first of all, if the child can believe something is possible, then it's over, right? I mean, they can achieve anything. But if we give them the tools to be able to dream, to first of all dream, I mean, that's really our goal. We want to be able to give them the tools for them to even imagine that, hey, you know what? There is a possibility. I can do something with my life. I could become a doctor. I could become a teacher. I could maybe do X, Y, and Z. They're helping me do that.
Right.
Because I think, you guys are familiar with John Maxwell. So, he talks about there are only four times that somebody actually changes or achieves something. And one of those things is when somebody gives you the tools to achieve that.
Right.
And so we're in this place with our organizations, Prosperity, Semilla, where we're like, how do we give them the tools, right? How do we give them the tools to be able to get out of this cycle and to get out of this poverty?
This movement is just so beautiful. Just being able to hear just the passion that you have behind it and the infrastructure, right? We all have times in our lives when we're passionate about something, but there's like, okay, now I want to do something about it. How can I create an infrastructure around this? And now Semilla has a purpose. I love the mission about it. There's a clear-cut vision and where you're going with it as well. My question, I guess our question would be like, now talking about the infrastructure, right? Talking about, I guess, the business plan behind putting together a nonprofit, right? How does something like that come together?
So I had help. I didn't do it by myself.
Of course,
obviously.
yeah.
So you have to have resources and people to help you. So I had, my CPA helped me with the setup of the corp.
Right.
I actually didn't even understand myself how that worked. I wasn't familiar with it, right? So the most that we're familiar with charities is like talking to your clients and saying, hey, if you want to make charity donations, those are deductible.
Right.
But in terms of setting up a corp or a 501c, like you were saying, for a nonprofit, I didn't know the ins and outs of that. So I had a CPA. My CPA helped me with that. And it's not that complicated. I'll be honest. It is lengthy and it takes process because I'm sure there's a lot of verifications that they have to do and research they have to do and make sure that this is a legitimate nonprofit organization and the goal behind that. But once you set up the corp and once they give you all the permits, it's fairly easy. You just have to, obviously you need the help of a CPA or a tax preparer, somebody that is well knowledgeable in
that field,
in this sector of nonprofits. But I don't really do a lot of the work. I mean, I just all the donations are reported. All the donations are, there's a log for that, and you give everyone that donates a receipt for their donation. But it's not that complicated.
Talking about the donations,
it's not that complicated.
how could you like when someone does a donation, you saying that's a tax deductible itself for their own business?
It is. It's a tax deduction, and there are new laws on charity which dollar limits have extended on charity. Okay. So I should have had those numbers for you guys, but they have extended. So you can now make a donation and it's a dollar for dollar deduction on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And just as a disclaimer too, so you guys know, we always say on the show, like anything that's talking about finance or your personal financials or anything like that, always consult with your CPA, with your tax professional, with your financial advisor. Again, we're speaking in just broad terms, so I just wanted to throw that little disclaimer out there.
This is everybody that she does or we personally do. It's not more so you should do this. It's more just this is what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
disclaimer, but yeah. No, I mean, talk about those deductions, though, in terms of donations. So if someone donates to, let's say, the charity or or to your nonprofit, how much of it goes directly to the family, or how does the proceeds work for someone who may be asking, well, how much of this is actually going to help the family?
So Semilla is a baby. Obviously, we've just started, and we are looking for anybody that wants to serve alongside with us. But 100% of what you donate goes to the children. So that's there awesome. Isn't anything else going to any other cost other than just the children. So what the way Semilla is working is we have two ways of helping the children. You either sponsor a child, right? So you can sponsor a child, and that becomes a child that you will now hold hands with and hopefully see them graduate and go to university and become whatever it is that they want to become. Mm-hmm. You have access to the children in terms of events that we will be having where you will meet the child that you're sponsoring. They will be able to look at you and say like, oh, this is my hero. This is who's helping.
I love that. That's the part that I really like. That. Yeah,
and you really get to connect with the child. Like his name.
Yeah, absolutely. You know his name. You know his age. You know what grade he's in. Yeah. You know how he's doing. We'll give you an update on how he's doing in school.
That's awesome.
And so that you can sponsor a child. And then the other side of Semilla, which, we're working on right now, is someone can just make a donation, a one-time donation, and it goes towards the workshops that we're going to be having, not for the children, but for the moms and dads of the children. So we're also there, believe it or not, there's a lot of young kids having babies. So there are 15, 16, 17-year-old kids that are now having babies. Yeah. And so education is kind of, done for them. So we're having workshops set up where we're going to be able to say, for example, this workshop is for mechanics. So we're teaching dads or young men how to do mechanics, the basics, right? Like change the brakes and do things like that, oil changes and things like that. So now they have another income, another side.
It's like a skill. Yeah, they have a skill that they can now monetize from. I love that.
So we'll be doing workshops, and so you can also, the donations that are one-time donations are going to go towards the workshops for moms and dads and young adults.
If someone wants to get started, say right away, but they don't have a lot of money, would it be better to sponsor the child, or to just do a one-time workshop? Just kind of depends on the individual.
It really depends. It really depends on where your heart is too, because remember with sponsoring a child, we really want you to stay connected.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends, and not everyone's going to be able to do that. So we know that as well. But it really just depends on wherever your heart is, and so both of them are going to make a great impact on the families of Ensenada. Both of them are going to make a great impact.
I love that. It's all about impact. I think the biggest thing, like, one of I have it on my vision board right here, right, is one of the goals that I have as well is to eventually build some type of nonprofit like this to be able to gather and raise money for baseball equipment and take it back to Cuba. Right?
I love that.
So
awesome.
for me, I mean, you guys kind of know my background a little bit. I was a baseball player for a long time, got hurt. That's what ended my career. And obviously my mom's side of the family, we're all Cuban. So I would just love to go back and just drop off a bunch of baseball equipment. And I have it on my vision board is playing baseball with a bunch of Cuban kids in the middle of the street.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
So it's something that I believe that it's much bigger than us. And what you're doing with Semilla, I mean, we were talking offset, right? That for your heart, for somebody's heart to be into something like this, we have to understand that it's much bigger than us.
Yes.
It's about making that impact. And that's where I was going with that, is that Semilla is a movement created by somebody with a massive heart, being Nayeli. And I think that, we could sit here and we could talk about financials and we could educate you guys on taxes and real estate and this and that, different businesses, social media, right? But at the end of the day, too, how can we make and educate the platform on a really big movement? You know what I mean? I think that's huge.
Yeah, and that's something that, in the future, like, I'm glad you have it on your vision board, bro, and you share that. I think it's important. I was reading actually one of your quotes by Carl Jung that you put our goals forward. By clarity is how we're going to actually even be able to accomplish things. So the fact that you mentioned that is key. And, I would mention the same thing. Like, what we do, at least I'm from a pueblo in Durango. And same.
Stop it.
You're from Durango
I
too?
was born in Durango.
What?
No way.
I was.
Oh, wow.
Are we prima? Are we cousins?
I know. Primo.
Prima.
I felt
Damn.
connected already. That's cool. What part of Durango?
Just Durango.
The city?
Mhm.
Oh, wow. So we're like 2 hours from the city.
Wow.
Vicente
what a
Guerrero
small world.
is like the pueblo from it. Vicente Guerrero, and then
cool.
it's like 10 minutes from there. It's called Rojas. It's like a smaller pueblo from there. But what we do, what my uncle does it, we'll bring clothes every December and we'll distribute it out to all the kids. And I remember having this conversation with them last year saying, how could we actually impact and actually change it? So we're talking about fundraising books and just gathering this. So by the end of the year in December, when people usually go and celebrate, that would be the time where we distribute it and give out education. But I love your coordination. There's an actual system behind it. How could someone go about creating a system like that where they could actually, educate a whole town on a pueblo? Because we're thinking about it, like we're trying to figure it out, but we're so lost. So what does your system come from? And like, what is the thought process of all that?
Well, you have to look at what the major need is.
Mhm.
For the kids of Ensenada. We knew that the major need for me, like in observing them and being around them, is we knew the major need is education, right? So we focus on the schooling system. I don't know, every you can start in a million ways when it comes to helping, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much need. I mean, throw a rock and you'll find somewhere where there's need, and you'll find a million things you can do. So I would say just start where first of all, where your heart calls you to start, but also what is the major need of that place, right? Is it I don't know, is it building something? Is it like educating them? Is it like, bringing workshops to them? Is it clothing like you guys do? Like focusing on the major need and then starting from there.
Okay, that's a good point.
I do like, and I do want to go back to what Pablo said about, it's bigger than us. And we were talking about this, before we started. And I always like to tell this same thing when I explain Semilla, right? When I explain the name, and I'll come back to where Semilla came from, the name of Semilla.
I love that.
But I always say, look, when it comes to, and what I was telling you outside is that for me, it's bigger than me, but for me, I told you I'm a very spiritual person. And so I know for me, it's answering to my calling, right? It is a calling that for me, God has placed in my heart. It is a calling that was there. And honestly, I didn't answer to it right away. It was a calling that was there. And I was just like, that's a lot of work. Ugh,
Yeah,
that's
you,
a lot of
you
responsibility.
knew what you had to do deep
It's a
down.
lot of responsibility. That's a lot. Like I don't have time. I would have, and so I would say, I'll just leave it for later. I'll leave it for later.
Yeah.
So for me, it's answering to that, and answering to that calling, and really to God, who is the one that has placed that calling and honestly that purpose in my life. But the reason I say that is because I think we all have a calling.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all desire something more than what we're doing. There's always something that we're like, there's something missing.
Yeah.
There's what's missing.
Yeah.
And so for me, I can tell you it's God. Like it's, we need to come to that closeness with God, to the, and I'll say higher being to anyone, but we need that in our life. Yeah. And so we all have a calling to serve. We all have a calling to give to others and to help others. It's just tapping into that. The minute that you tap into that, your heart will explode, your heart will expand, and you would realize that, hey, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
I'm really excited to have shout out to Frank. He'll be on the podcast
awesome.
tomorrow.
Shout out to Frank. And it's all in divine timing, and it's all in divine intervention with the things that are placed in front of us. But, like you said, I mean, we all come to a point of our life where it's the time. It's like, this is it. Like, this is what you were called to do, to expand, to learn, to grow. Like, it. And so the key is answering to that.
Yeah. That kind of reminds me of, I'm reading The Alchemist right now, and he talks about omens. I don't know if you guys are familiar with The Alchemist. I know you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
one of my favorites.
I'm very curious to know, what was your omen? Because you talk about when you first went to Prosperity Homes, like that was your first time going. You came back, and that's when you just shattered. What was your calling to even go there in the first place? Like, what made you even want to do that?
Well, my heart was already in service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Christian woman. I've always loved serving others. I've always, all my life, volunteered at church with the different, things going on at church. And so it's always been there.
You're around it?
Yeah,
okay.
It's always been there. Just when I say my heart shattered is the amount of need that I saw, and honestly the awareness that I had at that moment.
Once you saw it, shit.
Yeah, my heart just broke of just becoming aware of how much need is out there. We forget, right? Because we get so caught up in work, money, and like, nice things and expanding and growing, and we get caught up on all these things that we forget that there's more than we can do, and tapping into that is honestly what shattered my heart, just becoming aware of that.
I love that you bring that up.
Yeah.
Because a question that I have is so many times, like, and I guess this is more of a mentor question, right? Is we get caught up in wanting to work and build a company and servicing our clients and this and that. How do you find the balance, or how do you balance building a project like Semilla or a movement like Semilla, but also being a full-time mom and also being a full-time, businesswoman and entrepreneur, right? How do you balance all those things out?
That's a great question. I honestly feel that it wasn't until I came, and, years ago, I came into a place where I just felt really secure about who I am. I'm really secure about who I am, what I do, how I do things. And so when that security and that confidence came, which only came from God, it was no longer for me the race and like competing and like number one, and I got to achieve this and I got to do that. Like for me, I live a very peaceful life in the sense that, we're in competition with our own selves, and that should always be just the focus, just ourselves. Can I better myself tomorrow? How can I better myself the next day? And so for me, everything, it's stressful, and sometimes I'm like overwhelmed, and it happens to all of us, right? And that's the moments where I'm seeking God the most and thinking like, find rest. But at the end of the day, I'm not racing anywhere. I'm just letting God take control of my life, letting God take control of my purpose, letting God take control of my business, letting God take control of my family. Yeah. And when I do that, then there's peace in my heart, because, it's like when you say, like, I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow. So
that's real.
That's a bar.
My trust is there.
Yeah.
And so therefore, for me, it's not like, okay, what's the plan? How do I got to do next? I have those things, and that's how Semilla grew, right? It was like, okay, a plan, and like, how do I go about it? And but it's always in a very peaceful way where I'm just like trusting God, and like I said, if it's meant to be, it'll come to pass. My job is to continue educating myself. My job is to continue to do the work and put the things that I want to do out there, and if they come to fruition, praise God. Like, God's hand was in it.
You heard it here first. I mean, I think a lot of times, especially like a lot of young people on social media, everyone's comparing it to each other, especially, given the online presence, it's a blessing, because I think online presence is going to help us spread your goal of education, because now, someone just needs access to the internet, and now they can learn a skill set. But the negative I could see in that is that people start to get insecure. They start comparing themselves to other people's progress, and it's really not all roses how it looks on social media. Right. So I would definitely say, like, what your message is very, very important for people to hear, like, trusting God, and then be able just to really compare yourself to who you were yesterday, to therefore be able to, better yourself. And I think that brings you peace too.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. That's where the peace is, because, and like you said, I honestly really do have a heavy heart for our younger generation. There's the social media beast that in a lot of ways
it can work against you.
In a lot of ways, it's great, right? Because we're building businesses. Like, I had my first business when I was 19, and I was doing candles. And back then, I mean, nobody knew about you unless you were in a little store and they passed by you. There was no internet, right? So now we have the ability. We have so much to at the tip of our hands, and so that's a great part of it. But the really sad part of it is that if we're not being parenting our children to have the structure and the mindset, a strong mindset, and the security within themselves, to not let themselves be compared, then they're being taught by social media. And it's really sad, because and even it happens even for adults, but there's for the young generation, it hurts my heart, because I'm just like, oof, I see that it's like, it's the nice things, and if you don't have these nice things, like, oh, you're not successful, like I don't want to mess with you, because like you're not showing up this way. And that's really sad. And I think that's there is, I feel, and Francisco, when he's here tomorrow, he'll talk about this, but there is a great awakening happening,
big time.
And I think that's the beautiful part, and that's the hope, and that's the the continuous prayer of, Lord, continue to have this awakening again. And it goes back to why people are they're missing something. That's why there's so much depression. That's why there is suicide. They're missing something.
Highest than ever too. Suicide rate,
right? They're getting caught up on so much that social media brings, and so many other things, and like, well, I'm not enough. Well, like, I'm not doing that, so then I'm just not good enough, and I'm not going to succeed like they are, because look at what they're doing. And so these pressures are so heavy. But I'm so happy to see this this awakening that is happening due to that avoidance that people are experiencing.
I would say that with the power of social media, though, maybe if people know, it does bring more awareness. So what if we brought more awareness to what is going on in Ensenada? Are you able to speak a little bit for those of us? I had no idea until you told me what's going on. Can you talk about what's going on in Ensenada that's really driving you to go over there and inspire Semilla and Prosperity Homes?
Well, I talked a little bit to you guys about the migrant camps, and so I will bring awareness about the migrant camps, and that I think has been one of the hardest things that we've had to experience together, Prosperity Homes and myself. They're basically brought with the illusion that they are going to, when I say they, I say these families that are being brought from Guatemala, they're being brought from Oaxaca, like very remote places in Mexico where they're
indigenous
they
people.
Oh, actually, that's 100% right. A lot of the people in the migrant camps, they don't speak Spanish. They're still speaking their indigenous language.
Slavery is still real.
So they bring them over here and say, you're going to have a roof over your head, you're going to have food, you're going to have income. And really that's under false promises, because they're there. And what the ranch owners have basically done is they have built horse stalls, and they just have put metal sheets around them. So the families are sleeping in a room probably smaller than this, and it's nothing but dirt floors. And they have nothing. I mean, they don't have cars. They don't have nothing. They don't have a way to even save to buy a mattress and put a mattress in there. So it's really heartbreaking. And, we've gone in there with the promise that we're not going to take anyone out of there. And it's really hard, because I'd want to take everyone out of there.
So you guys make an agreement with the ranch owners to be able to help them? Yeah, there's an agreement
that we're just going to supply and give help.
Okay.
And so we think, like, if we get them out of there, our doors are closed and we have no access to these people. And so
That's tricky
what do we want to do? So
slope,
what we want to
yeah.
do is just bless them and bring things that can alleviate some of their, their living, the
This
day-to-day
is
living.
legal? Like the ranch owners know what they're doing. Like they're basically
100% they know what they're
captivating
doing.
the people and bringing them, like you said, to a remote place where the
And they
resources
tell them
are
you
limited.
can leave at any time. But like how? I don't even have enough money for a bus.
Yeah.
And it's a family of 5 or a family of 6.
Wow.
So it is, I'll just call it like it is. It's modern day slavery. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Right.
And so those are the people that we're focusing on.
Yeah. Who
Right
who
now.
are these are these Mexicanos, or like these people like from outside the states, like
No, they're
everywhere?
Hispanic.
What
yeah.
kind? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, be
Yeah.
your own.
That makes me feel uneasy
Yeah.
just by knowing that
Yeah.
now.
Well,
you know, 'cause
interracial
yeah.
conflict is the highest.
Well, and
between-
think about it. That goes down all the way to how everyone conducts business, right?
Mm.
How do you do it? Like, are you being true? Are you being honest? Is there integrity in how you do business, or are you just trying to make a quick sale, or are you just trying to make a quick buck?
Right.
So the greed can get to a point where this is now where, how they have people and they don't care. Hey, my ranch needs to get worked on. I need
I don't
workers.
wanna pay for
so I'll give
labor.
you somewhere to live, but like, I need a worker. I don't care of anything else. And so that goes back to, like I said, any sort of way you do business. Like, how do we want to do business? Do we want to do business by really putting someone in a better place?
Right.
By really like, hey, if this actually doesn't work for you, that means that I don't get the business, but it doesn't work for you. I can't offer you something that just doesn't work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I just want to make a quick buck? So, that greed and that type of, I don't know.
Yeah, that's rough. That's just hearing that makes me definitely feel uneasy. Now,
Yeah.
I know people, if you listen this far, like, continue listening because we have something for you. Now, say people are listening to that, and that makes me uneasy, right? And I know that's making a lot of you guys uneasy as well. How could people, I know you have, like, places online. What's the website? What's the landing page that people could get in contact to actually say, you know what, I can make a contribution?
So for Semilla, they can go onto our Instagram right now, and they can go into the link there to make a donation.
We'll put it down in the
Semilla,
description.
Yeah, Semilla Movement on Instagram. Again, it's a baby, so we're trying to we do so many more things, and we're not actually posting, which is not a good thing.
That's something we could help out.
But
Yeah.
we need that help just to.
The Semilla, you said baby. How long have you guys been born for?
We've been sponsoring children for over a year,
That's
a year
awesome.
now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until October that we had the actual introduction and made accessible the donation and everything else.
Yeah, this is very, very new. Yeah. Yeah,
it's
that's
very
awesome.
new. So, like I
thank
was
you for
telling
what
you
you
guys
do.
earlier, it's a lot of work, right? To
It
do
is,
yeah.
business and mom and this and now the nonprofit. So it is a hard task. So anyone that would like to get involved, we're always accepting help.
Yeah, we'll put all the descriptions down below.
Yeah.
We'll put the Instagram. We'll put Nayeli's Instagram as well down below. Guys, get in contact with her if you wanna learn about how you could become part of the movement. We're looking for people. Educate and Elevate's behind it, so we'll definitely be talking as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be able to see how we can make an impact alongside. Right, we're all about making impact. So, yeah, that's awesome.
Well, you're already making an impact here. And again, this goes back to how the name of Semilla came up that I wanted to share.
Yeah, let's
please,
talk
yeah,
about
yeah.
that. Yeah,
So,
Semilla.
Semilla, I mean, you guys understand that's the Spanish word for seed, right?
Seed, yep.
And so for me, the way I always see it is our life is a semilla. Our life is a seed. The minute that you open your eyes, every action that you take is a seed that you're planting for your future self. So whether that is you guys working out, whether that is you guys, doing breath work, whether that is, the way we wake up my children and the way that I interact with them that morning, the way that I, have the first conversations, anything that I do is a semilla. So every conversation that I have with someone, that is a semilla to the future relationship we're going to have. The way that I talk to my partner is going to be, the way that our relationship is going to flourish. The way that I talk to my mom, the way that I talk to my dad, the type of interactions I have and what I do for them or what I don't do for them is a semilla in our life. Our business as well. The way we handle our business, everything that we don't do that day is a semilla to what we're not getting the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So semilla comes from that, and it just comes from just having that presence every single day and acknowledging that everything that we do is a semilla to our future self and everything that
I
we're
love
going
that.
to have.
And then even with the education, with the children,
Yeah.
you're planting little semillas in the little brain.
We're planting seeds, and I don't know. I might not even
like
be in this
that.
world where we'll see what those those seeds do, but we are planting the seeds.
We hope to, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a legacy. That's like legacy driven, where now kids, and generations are gonna come and think about like the lives that have been changed by the movement that you're making today.
Yeah, that is definitely our hope and our prayer that one day a child can say like I'm a doctor because somebody thought of helping us over here with education, and here we are. So yeah,
This is so dope.
Yeah,
This is really, really cool.
I do want to talk about more about Ensenada because I'm still curious too, because I've been over there too, and I'm sure I'm gonna speak to a lot of people who go over there. Vamos porque the vinos, la Valle de Guadalupe is over there, and then
yes.
we got Baja Fest, and then you got like Rosarito. Like people go just for the tourist attractions, but there's a lot of it that probably goes unseen. Can you talk about what goes unseen to most of us?
Well, it's the remote areas that, you go to the fun parts and you would never imagine what some of these families are living, but it's the remote areas that, there's it's like a third world country. And I remember thinking, oh, you have to go all the way to Africa, or you have to go to all these places in order to find this kind of stuff.
This is literally 3 hours away.
Of this poverty. It's 3 hours away.
Honestly.
It's so not only is it just 3 hours away, but I mean, the level of poverty that you're experiencing there, you will not be able to believe it. Like I said, I explained to you guys how they are in the hills. They have no water, they have no electricity, they have nothing. And so, I mean, imagine that. If you can really imagine that, it's easy to say there's no water, there's no electricity, but if you can really imagine that, they can't shower. Can you go 3 days without showering? There's no way. You just feel like you can't live with yourself. You're like, oh my God, I have to get in the shower, or I have to do this. Yeah. Imagine them. You go to these migrant camps in some of these areas, and, to even touch the girl's hair is like, they haven't showered for such a long time. And so it's the basic needs that someone wouldn't even imagine how drastic and how painful it is to live with.
Now, speaking about boots on ground, right? Because you're there, you go often, even with Prosperity Homes or with Semilla. And going back to what's going on in Mexico, right? How, and this is something that you may or may not know is because you're also in financial services, right? You're a businesswoman, you're an entrepreneur. What is the state of the economy, I guess? Would you happen to know what because a lot of our audience as well, very Latino based, right? What is the state of Mexico's economy right now? Are you aware too much of what's going on over there at all?
Well, what we know about Mexico, not to a full extent, I'm not. But what we know about Mexico is that unfortunately, Mexico, and I'm Mexican, so unfortunately, our Mexico and our government has never, the government for Mexico has never been one to be all about the people, right? It isn't until now with the president that they have now, and I'm not going to get into politics, but I know that it isn't until recently that they have been able to help seniors and they've been able to help people with financial aid. But other than that, there's really nothing. And so Mexico is there's no such thing as middle class. There's no such thing. You're either super poor or you're very well off.
Yeah.
And
no, that's true. Yeah, especially in Ensenada. I mean, it's a big retirement place where people go out there to retire. You got a lot of white people over there. People just go. So when you go over there, you see the indigenous people as well who don't speak the dialect of Spanish. And even then, it's crazy because there's a lot of inter-conflict racism between us Mexicans. And just to kind of like point something out that my uncle would always talk about. He said like the darker skinned Mexicans would always get more hate versus the lighter skinned Mexicans. And then he'd be like,
really?
And then he'd be like, just look at the novelas. Like, why are all the novelas why are they all white? Like, why are they all like white? I don't know if he was making a point.
What side am I on, bro?
I don't know. I was like, that's a good point though. I was like, you're right. I guess you're right.
Never thought about that.
Like they're all like, he's like, yeah, like the inter-conflict racism between us is huge. And we just talk about economic disparities as well, like between jobs and occupations. And many times, like the classic job, even for someone over here that comes from over there, is service, labor, and like construction, or it'll be like cleaning, because that's what we know. But I guess if we start to educate from a younger age, like skills developments, like you're talking about mechanics, stuff like that, I think that could really change the gap. Like that's how you really change a movement, and because there is a huge economic disparity between Latinos and everybody else.
It starts from the semilla, right? It starts from the seed. It starts from when we're kids. What are we exposed to?
Yeah. do we know?
What skill sets are we being taught, right? And even with, like, for example, the team that we're building here, bro, is that, like, I've recently been getting a lot of compliments in terms of, like, wow, a lot of your advisors are very young. Well, yeah, because if you take a look at the majority of our industry, I think the average age of people in our industry is like 60, 65 years old.
And white.
Right? And yeah, and of the American descent, Caucasian, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I know we're not supposed to be sitting in these chairs, but it's up to the seed. It's up to how could we generate and how could we educate and elevate the generations to come,
Right.
right? It starts with the semilla. It starts with the seed. It starts with the kids in other countries, right? And this is something where we definitely, I mean, our goal is to definitely take it global.
We want to support you any way we can as well.
And support everything, 100%.
Is there any upcoming movements that you guys are going to go on or, for the year? Like anything you can shout out?
Semilla will be having a few fundraisers coming up. And we will be having a couple of events where we will, be introducing the sponsors to the children. So those are the things that are coming up. But the fundraisers will be for different reasons. One will be for the workshops. And then other ones will be, again, to focus on the migrant camps. We really want to be able to deliver essential needs for them. So, people donate a lot of clothes. And so lately when I go, I just say, it's been winter, so we've been taking blankets and jackets. But I say, don't give me so much clothes. Don't give me so much used clothes right now. Or give me essential things, right? Give me like the baby wipes, give me the toothbrushes, give me the toothpaste, give me the the things that you don't think about.
Yeah.
The things that you don't think about, right? So we want to do a fundraiser. We're going to be doing a fundraiser where we're going to just focus on those things, including like little drawers. So you give them clothes and guess what? They're on the dirt floor.
Yeah.
So things that they're essential for them to just, for them just to have, some alleviance in the daily task and the daily things that they do, and hopefully get them some mattresses too.
That'd be really cool. As you're kind of talking about that, I think it'd be really cool. I don't know if you know, but we're tossing a Latino base, like a pop-up in the city of Anaheim on April 15th. And it's going to be Latino businesses, Latino entrepreneurs. We rented out a really cool like warehouse, and we'll have food vendors out there and stuff like that. So we'll definitely talk a little bit more about how maybe Semilla could become a part of that and raise awareness for not only the Semilla movement, but the camps, everything that's going on, and maybe even promoting, hey, if you're coming, it's a free event, but bring something. You know what I mean? I think that'd be really cool.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll have like a box or something. We could fill up a box. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I just kind of
I
thought
love
about that.
that.
today.
Yes,
Yeah.
like hey, bring diapers, bring wipes, bring like soap, or bring
Those are more essential than actual
100%.
clothes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because there was when we just started going 3 years ago or two, or a little almost 3 years ago, we would just take clothes and clothes and clothes. But once we started noticing, I'm like, there's so much need. I mean, you think about it and try to go with just clothes. No.
Yeah.
I mean, from even just, woman needs and just the hygiene things. And there's more need for that.
Okay.
Than just the,
Good to know.
just
That's
the
really
clothes.
good to know. I kind of want to switch terms a little bit, stepping a little bit away from Semilla in a bit. And another thing that I really admire about you is just the way you carry yourself as a women entrepreneur. I've always had a very big place in my heart when I see women in business thriving, just because I think about my mom. She was a single mom growing up. We lost my dad when I was 14, and she made it happen, right? And to see other women thriving in business, especially this month being the month of March. We're in March, right?
Yeah.
Being in the month of March. Yeah. March 1st as we're shooting it. Yeah. And obviously it being the month of women, right? Talk a little bit about like some of the challenges and also things that you would like to start seeing a little bit more from women entrepreneurs as well.
Well, there's a lot of challenges, but I will say that it has changed in a lot of ways, especially, I mean, my experience in corporate America is completely different than as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that as an entrepreneur, as a woman, we are seeing as many blocks and things like that are not accessible to us. I think that, I mean, it can happen, but I think as women, especially if we're entrepreneurs, that probably says enough about us to say, hey, we're the kind that just goes for it, and we're not afraid, and we're just, we keep pushing ourselves, and we fall, and it's fine. Like, I'm getting up for the 100th time, but it's fine. But I think maybe the challenges and the reality is that, single moms and single dads, and I'll say to single dads because I have plenty of friends that are single dads. It's still different. It's still very different.
Yeah.
We women by nature are nurturers, and so when I'm saying we're nurturers, we go the extra mile, or we do the things that men would think like that's not necessary.
Yeah.
Right. And in a lot of times it's not necessary.
Yeah.
But again,
But it does make a difference.
we're nurturers, so we show up that way with our kids.
Yeah.
And so I do feel that naturally we're going to feel a little bit more pressure when we are single moms to get things done and to show up fully as a mom, and then to show up fully as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. And so it is that part I think is and will continue to always be a little bit of a struggle.
What are 2 or 3 things that you could give to an up and coming female entrepreneur to be able to be successful in the marketplace?
Especially even if she's leaving like corporate America.
Yeah.
Like someone like, and that's what I was going to ask after too, about corporate America. But yeah, that great question.
I would say fail fast, fail forward. That would be my first thing. Like, do not be afraid of failing. Do not be afraid of getting it wrong. Do not be afraid of making mistakes. The more mistakes you make, the better. Get that experience underneath your pocket. Get that experience underneath your belt. Like, do it. Like, look at that. Let me try that. Oh, it didn't work. Okay, perfect. It didn't work. Now I got this. Like, going. I'm just mastering my craft by like making mistakes. And so don't be afraid of making mistakes. I would say that even for myself, I had the whole, perfectionist type of syndrome where it's like, I can't do this until it's perfect. And I think that's a huge mistake. And I think that's something that even for myself, it really did hurt me in a lot of areas. And so I would say, do not worry about having something be perfect. Just do it. Just do it. Just go for it.
Good tip.
The responsibility behind that is stay educated, continue to educate yourself, continue to stay resourceful, continue to ask questions. No question is a dumb question, right? We heard that over and over and over. It isn't. Like, don't be afraid of asking someone that you think like expects you to know the answer.
Yeah.
Just ask. Yeah. So I would say that would be the biggest thing. The biggest thing. Because if you're not doing any of those things, you're staying where you are and you're not learning, you're not growing, and you're not going to have any experience.
I love that. I asked that question too because I do have a lot of younger female entrepreneurs that are joining the team, that are joining the movement and stuff like that. And I think that was more of a question for them because I want them to be very successful, not only in just what we're building here, but just in their life in general. So that's definitely a big one.
Yeah, I would say that would be probably one of the biggest.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, I think women in entrepreneurship is like the fastest growing. Right? I think like women, you see it a lot more nowadays too, where empowerment for women is a lot more, and it should continue to be like that because I think they would honestly dominate us. Like you guys, like you're saying, in terms of some aspects, I don't know, but I think the aspect that you talked about nurture, like a woman's touch, like it cannot be like it's. I already know I can't.
Well, bro, I mean, I'll give you an example. So Alexis and I spoke at an all-female event this past Sunday, right? And I had the pleasure of being one of only 2 guys that attended the event. We were the speakers, right? And I walked in, bro, and shout out to my friend Raven. The event that she threw, like so much detail,
bro,
so much like things that I wouldn't even imagine. I walked in there and I just looked at her. I was like, man, I looked at Alexis. I was like, I got to step it up when I throw my events because there's just so much detail, but it goes back to, again, that feminine touch. Right. It's so special and it's so needed. Guys, don't think you could do it all because we definitely need the female as well.
Oh, they always
100%.
say
business,
and we need the man. Like I don't agree with the whole like feminist thing. Like I feel that I'm strong, and like I always say, like I'm strong. I want my man to be stronger.
Yeah.
Right. So like I just we're strong women, but men are needed. Like I always tell women, I'm like this whole like I got this, and like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Like if something happens and like I change my tire, I'm not gonna call a chick to come and do that, or like like there are things that like as a woman we need we need the masculine. Yeah. And men need the feminine.
100%.
And we all have both, right?
And speaking from a guy's perspective too, I mean, come on, fellas. We all know that we don't want to be with the chick that's gonna be like that either. Let's just keep it real.
That is crazy good.
It's a partnership.
And we're not gonna want to be with a man where we don't feel safe or protected.
Exactly. That's
true.
Or
that's
it's
true.
like here, and no, I won't say provide because we women are doing our business, and I for one would not be one to just want to stay home. I've always had it in me, but we do need a man. We need to feel safe. We need to feel protected. We need to feel that our man's got.
I think confidence in yourself is important. Like even as a man, especially with entrepreneurship being more prominent now in women, where now women are possibly making more money than than the man, where the man now has to feel more confident knowing like I may not be the main breadwinner no more. Like I may not. So it's just kind of like, and that's actually a real thing where people actually feel like as guys, like, you're like, man, like you might feel a little itch at you if your girl's making more money, but at the same time, it's kind of like, well, you guys are both hustling and making, grinding towards it.
Yeah.
And you guys will talk about this tomorrow with Francisco, but it all starts with doing the work, right? We have to do the work. We have to do the work because that confidence and that security and what you are here to, how you're here to show up for your partner, whether you're the man or the woman, all comes with doing the work.
Yep.
So two people the woman could be making more than the man. But if she's done the work and he's done the work, they are very clear on the fact that money is just money.
Yeah.
And money comes and goes. And he still has the role of the masculine and she still has the role of the feminine, whether the dollar sign is bigger on one side than the other. Mm-hmm. So it starts with doing the work.
And if you're on the same team, I mean, you guys are both working. That's all that matters.
Better.
But if you want to know more about the work, tune into the next episode. See that? See the little segment? Now you got to go watch the next episode.
That's right.
Nayeli, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. We always like to do something, and you speak fluent Spanish, right?
I do.
So, una cosa para la gente latina que les puede decir para ayudarlo en vida, en negocio, lo que sea. I know we put people on the spot a little bit.
So la pregunta es más como, ¿qué nos puedes decir de algo para el negocio, para la gente latina que está escuchando? O específicamente, ¿verdad? Como dices.
O si quieres hablar un poquito de Semilla, lo que sea.
Bueno, el consejo sería para nuestra gente latina que, hagan preguntas, que se eduquen, que no tengan miedo de empezar, especialmente nosotros estamos en el sector financiero, que no estén con miedo de que es que no sé esto y mejor no pregunto, mejor no, allá te quieren robar o allá, no sigan esa desconfianza, edúquense, nuestra gente latina, edúquense, sean realistas de que las finanzas son muy importantes para desde que uno es niño. Entonces que se eduquen financieramente, que hagan preguntas, que hagan lo que tengan que hacer para poder estar en una mejor posición y que permitan, personas como ustedes que los eduquen y que hagan preguntas y que trabajen con ustedes. So, manténganse educados.
Y eso es lo que Semilla hace para los niños en Ensenada y lo que nosotros estamos haciendo también con este podcast.
Yeah, para la gente latina. For all of our
Latino.
Yeah, for all of our Latin people.
Durango, that's right.
Oh wow!
Damn, I feel left out right now.
Huh?
Cousins.
You
I'm the third cousin.
They took you to live over there. That's why.
They separated us at birth, bro.
For real, huh?
We're back.
We're back. Nayeli, how can people get in contact with you? What's the Instagram handle? I know we dropped the Semilla one as well. What's the best way for people to get in contact with you?
They can get in contact with me through Facebook. Facebook was mostly what I use for business.
Okay.
Facebook is Nayeli Alvarado. My Instagram is Mrs. Nayeli Alvarado. And my Semilla, you will put the handle Semilla Movement on Instagram.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm excited.
We really look forward to growing and helping Semilla.
I want to go out there.
Next level.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd love for you guys to come out there.
Guys, thanks so much. If you found value on the episode, do us a favor. Like, subscribe, please. We're trying to grow this podcast. We say it all the time. We don't charge. We don't have any, sponsors. We don't have any commercials or anything. The best way that you could pay for us to keep doing what we're doing is just sharing. Send this to a friend. Send this to somebody that you think needs to hear this. And that's the best way that you could pay us, is just by paying it forward. So again, we definitely look forward to the next episode. We have our good buddy Francisco Jara, the CEO, founder of Giving Business Soul, and just a very prolific entrepreneur. So be on the lookout for that. Couple of announcements before we log off as well. April 15th, we talk about it on the podcast. April 15th, we have the Latino Hustle event. It's going to be a pop-up in the city of Anaheim. We have an amazing venue if you want to promote your business, whether it be a food vendor for $350 or your product or service for $250. It's going to be awesome. We'll have probably about 200 to 300 people there. And then obviously every single year, the World Shakers Conference on September 29th of this year, 2023. So be on the lookout for that. We have some amazing speakers. I just solidified a very big speaker for this year's conference. I'm not going to give any names yet, but just be in awareness for that. So again, Educate and Elevate with Pablo and Armando. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys on the next episode.